Hello, this is Brian Whitten and ET Art. Today we're going to discuss an event I expect is due in Sydney, which is not too far away actually, probably within a month or so. We will discuss why I think it's the day I think it's going to be. Before I go on, if you're 12 years old or younger, can you go and get your mum and dad to watch this please? And if they say it's okay, then you can come back and watch it. Now the images you see on the screen now are ones that I've taken off rocks over the months. They are not natural images, they've all been made by a very complicated process that involves multifaceted laser cutting. And I would go to say that there is fibre optics in some of them, certainly probably more than you would expect. The technology shown in the manufacture is not something that's natural that you're looking at, where as opposed to this, which is a natural thing that is mathematically calculable. You know, I mean, it's got mathematics built in within nature itself. But that's not what you're seeing on these rocks. It's a different thing, totally different thing. There are some of you who wondered and asked me on social media, where's my proof, you know, of things? And I thought, well, before I went on today, the fastest thing to do was to say to those that have said, where's my proof, was that this is actually in a video called Programmable Rock. And I will show you now how this kicks off. I put the rock under the microscope here and I've got some extra marks on it that I hadn't had on the rock before. This rock has had marks come and go and disappear and do all sorts of things. So I want you to watch this again. I have put this in before and said, have a look at this, and this is why I said to you, when you want to say, well, where's my proof? This is what the sort of things that have been happening to me personally here in the understanding of what I've seen here. You'll think this one here, white line comes up here, gets drawn on the rock, and you could think that that's coincidental, but over here there's another white line draws there and then draws a pyramid like this here. So that is why I believe I'm correct, okay? And what I will tell you is that part of that line made me understand the following. So it was that very white line getting drawn that made me understand this part, because this was the part I was having difficulty in understanding. I could see the movement down here and the movement back up. We have already discussed in our previous videos that we were looking at this being the movement of the axis being 10 degrees. We've gone through this in other videos. I do not want to go over that, but I just wanted to show you that that white line there getting drawn with that loop, or half loop like that, was exactly what made me understand the way that worked. It was actually telling us that the plane of our planet, as say the 1st of July, as it's plotted the 1st of July every day for 6,000 years. And that's what it's representing, the plot of the planet, or the plane of Earth, spinning round the sun, which is what's here. And this, I could never understand why that was there, and that was the situation where I believe we are also seeing that when we are laid flat on the flat cycles, where we move out beyond 40 million miles beyond Mars. I will show you another planetary issue with that, planetary movement issue. But it was actually that white line getting drawn on that rock that made me understand that. So I wanted to just put that in here, because I've had people say, where's your proof, Brian? Listen, I just figure I just go on when I get white lines drawn like that at a rock at microscopic level. I just keep going down the track I'm going down. I'm reading a message. Some have been written like that to me. Some have been written like this. I understand what it means. I just understand what it means. I wanted to show you one other thing to do with the Tirumali-Jan complex. Before I move on to the Tirumali-Jan complex, I'll show you the two cross sections or two movements of the planet we get shown here by the cross section of the pyramid here. The first two that hit and tilt the axis, which is this inserted image at the bottom of South America and then Central America, that is this impact here and this impact here. This is how we work out the time. Our time factor is along that way. We've gone through this in the Pyramid Decoded video. Once again, I don't want to spend too much time hashing what we've already gone through. This was the T1 event, which was the planets or the planet's tilt of the axis here, and this one here was the movement of it down away from the plane of the sun. That's what actually happened. That was 6,000 years ago, and it's been, you know, that plane has been slowly moving down and around and back up the other side, and that's what I'm saying. We only do 180 degrees. If I did a little bit of math there, the 180 degrees divided into the distance travelled is 33.3, which is, like I said, it's not a secret. It is in books in Masonic lodges. That's why that sum comes up to 33.3. But that's what happens. Now this movement down here is very, very quick, but it's the entire planet moving. This one is with it spinning that way quickly. The reason I wanted to show you that is because I worked out that in the outer ring, when I said we're not moving any faster or we're spinning slower, we have the problem we have when we hit the inner plane, when we're on the inner ring and rotating as we are, which is anti-clockwise. When we hit the plane of the sun, we accelerate by about 1,000 mile an hour. I think I've said 1,000 RPM. And something, trust me, it isn't 1,000 RPM. We'd be in Mars before you knew it. So this quick speed is magnetic, electromagnetic. It's quick, it's bang, it's like a switch. That's the problem. So when we hit the plane of the sun spinning in the way we are now, which is anti-clockwise, we actually are whipped into 1,000 kilometres an hour faster, and it's like getting thrown west 1,000 kilometres an hour. Having said that, like I said, we've already gone through in the other videos that there are things on the planet, this inserted image here, there's the bore marks and whatnot. They indicate speed issues, but they also indicate that they bore through underneath the masses of the continents. They are very smart. They've done this for, we estimated, about 15 million years, if we're to look at this plate and understand that between each rotational change of the Earth in its rotation, as in anti-clockwise or clockwise, it does not, as I've said, get changed in its direction. It always spins the same way. It just gets turned over or toppled over on its way back in from Mars, and that's how that's done. So what we're seeing here, and what I wanted to show you back to this video here, or back to this image, is when we look at the image here, we are getting this motion here where the planet is moving very quickly this way. I just wanted to come back to the Tirumali-Jan complex in India. It's a temple in India with this UFO stuck in the wall. Once again, this is Praveen Mohan's work, and we're very much thankful for his input on this one. These were our 4 cycles here. This is our inner ring of rotation. This is our outer ring of rotation. Right, so this is Earth's ring that we're on now. We're just finishing this cycle, which is why this switch is open. We've been through this before. This is the plane of the sun, and this crisscross pattern here is showing us Atlantis installed on both the inner and outer ring. Although I would suggest that we might have Atlantis installed on Mars here, to be honest. I could see that actually happening. I'll tell you why in a minute. But this is what this is about, and it's telling us what happened to our planet and how it gets cycled through the solar system, because it has to actually. Basically, there's no suitable way for it to spin other than these unnatural cycles, and they appear to be Goldilocks zone, but they come to an end. And that's literally because the situation is that coming in plane with the sun cannot be done any other way than to be managed by the people that put it on the unnatural cycle. And that is what the story is. One thing I wanted to come back to and say, this is our fast one here, and I said that these are pretty much the same time. Obviously this is, you know, a little bit quicker than this, but I did want to make note of that compared to this one, because this is the fast cycle out here. This is where the North Pole was destroyed on the last cycle, right there. When we've come up out of that unnatural cycle, it has not been stopped there. It's been let go quite deliberately. I'll show you something in a minute to prove you that will prove that that's the case. It's been let spin fast there, but we were on Mars. We weren't living on Earth then. This is beyond Mars, 40 million miles beyond Mars. The reason this happens, like I said, is there's no real way of traversing on plane with the sun without management. It drives global tsunamis through the magnetism of the sun. The narrow band of magnetism of the sun is only 200 kilometres wide, and it causes major problems both from UV, light, tidal waves, tsunamis brought in with the sunrise every day. This is why we've got all these warnings here for it. It's what all the pyramids and all the megaliths are about. Now I wanted to move on from that. I just wanted to let you know that in my opinion here, this is a short distance here as opposed to that one, and what we're seeing here is a movement of acceleration of the planet, but not with the whip speed. You still get the whip speed enough to move the North Pole, destroy it totally, that's where it's happened. But just getting enough acceleration of the planet itself, because it's moving twice the speed as what it would have been moving here. So when you come up and join the plane out here on the entry to the plane, you're going absolutely flat stick with the planet going that way as well. And I'll take you back to that cross section of the pyramid. Now if I come back to the cross section of the pyramid now, that's why I wanted to mention that. I believe that we're getting a lesson there in the T2 lesson, the movement of the planet down like that, that's exactly how fast you would have to calculate, you know, how fast you would traverse, or how far you would traverse through space in an instant, because that's what that one's telling us. It's saying in the outer ring that the sun is still that horizontal plane of the sun is still that strong, that it accelerates the planet that quickly, like as the whole planet as a mass forward, that's still catastrophic. And that's what they're telling us there. The entry into the plane, slow, drives the planet really quite quickly. So we've got another problem in the outer ring. So it's still even strong, even out there, to both twist the Earth fast enough to make the pole disintegrate. And what we've spoken about that before with the ice on the pole, it acts like an electric drill. It just goes like this and makes the entire landmass just blow up. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing here the other movement, which is the entire Earth itself being propelled like a switch. That's why they're saying it's like, that's why they build it like a switch in that wall. I'll do an insert there of what that looks like. It's a switch. It's very instantaneous, and this is why they have all these things here to let us know what we're in for. Now I want to talk about the Sydney event. If we then look at all the megaliths and the pyramids and such things that have told us everything we needed to know about what's actually happened on the last event, and we ponder that they've used measurements, the measurement from Easter Island here to the very line of longitude that tilted is 6,888 kilometres. There's 888 Maui on Easter Island. It's 6,888 kilometres back to the very point of impact, back here. That is 6,888 kilometres to the corner, or to the very centre of impact here. So they do it repetitively, 6,000. 6,000 is how many thousand years the cycle is. 6,000 years long. 888 Maui on Easter Island, it's 888 or 6,888 back to that line of longitude. if I go around the other side of the globe, on that very line, right in the middle I have Uluru. On the very same line, it is not 1 degree left or right, it is absolutely centre of the very line that tilted. Uluru then is on this side of the globe. We've already gone and looked at an inserted image here of Uniguni. This is a monument in the water of Japan. We've looked at it before, and it is part of the warning on this side that tells you of the issue we had with the tides. That in the event we were actually running continuously, just the tides themselves would drive tidal waves like we see at Wave Rock here. And all of that was on this side to tell us that the catastrophe that we meet is a natural catastrophe. It's borne by the sun's really, really strong, narrow, horizontal band of magnetism. And that's what it actually does. It actually causes a worldwide issue, drives tides with the rising sun, and you would get tsunamis all over the globe every day. That is the problem. One of the problems, even outside of the really, really fast whipping motion, which is in the first instance going to drive waves 1,000 foot high across the nations. It would sweep right across the entire nation here. By the way, it's also 888 kilometres from the tropics, the very line created by the event, down to the coast. It's 888 kilometres. So it's not silly to then ponder the next event is going to be the same. So what I did was then say, okay, well that comet impact, or the last one, remember, I'll just do an insert now of the Sacsayhuaman walls in Peru, and we've looked at these. These are 3 walls that are built to reflect the direction and altitude of the comets that came in last time. Obviously they're not going to be there building them whilst they're all going to die. They're going to build that after the event to teach us which direction the comets came from. And we know that the Earth needed to be sped up. That's why they're all hitting them in the direction that they're going. All of them are coming from the west and hitting the planet in the direction it needs to be sped up. That's why that actually happened the way it was. Now I'll show you this inserted image now, which is the West Australian, that's the centre impact. So that impact is right here. I'll show you right now. If you were looking at Australia like this, it is straight down like this. Okay, and if I drew a line through the trajectory of that comet, the one that's on, I mean, that didn't really have anything to do with, you know, the event itself last time. So if I drew a line through it, I mean, that's sort of the trajectory I'd be going through, so I'll just save that. Then what I'll do is just back out again and we'll just see what line it is. And this is where, this line that I've drawn here, now if I go to the Britain incident, which we've already calculated that this other line, this one here that went right across the top of this line, the other end is at the pyramids. This is what this line does here, Easter Island, through this one, over to there, the pyramids. Exactly. This one here dissects the entry point of the last comet that stopped the tilt of the globe, this one. You follow that through and it goes straight through London. That is where the other event is. Both of them are in the northern hemisphere. Both of them are going to be marked. This one was marked, we've already spoken of it, by this event. Space debris that was found in a field in Murcia in Spain, and then we had the landing in Murcia, Spain, or off the coast of Spain into the Mediterranean, which is the event of the very last event. The landing was right there off the coast of Murcia. That's exactly where it happened last time. That is the first impact that created the Mediterranean. It was this one, and then another one that way, that there. So it's marked where it was going to come in from there. So the comet or meteor that's going to come in here, I'm expecting will be right here actually. It'll land there, not England, it'll go right through here. It's a very massive comet, it's 200 kilometres wide. And I would expect that to be the trajectory. The other reason why I noticed this was I noticed there was a place in Iran, and I realised it's called Ilam in our English language. I don't know how you say it in the language of the people that live in Iran, whether or not, in Arabic it would obviously be something else. But when it's written in our language, it looks like 11 AM, okay? So when we come back to my placement of this beginning of this line and saying that I thought Elam was a good place to start, being that it was 33.33 degrees, well I should say 33 degrees, 33 minutes, 33 seconds north, that where I discovered the image that I've just shown you, the inserted image of the Queen of Egypt, I thought at the time with the two comets coming at her, which is what I thought that was at the time. It wasn't until I moved the light around that I saw it was a more recent version of the Queen. But I don't want to go away from that. I want to say to you that this is the point of impact that drove the planet away from the plane of the sun. That is what we are told in the pyramids. It is the T2 event, I'll insert it here and circle it for you. It is the one that drove us away from the plane. So therefore, it's not also a stupid idea to say, let's start our line from here, because we are actually coming into the plane. We're doing exactly the opposite than what happened there. That's the other reason why I'm starting here. It's not a stupid position to start, outside of it being 33.33.33. So that is my location. Now I'm getting a warning. I know it's a warning because it's the centre one, yet again, on the walls. It's indicating the 6th of November. And it's saying I'm coming from the other direction. I'm coming from this way this time because the last time the Earth was going around the Sun in the opposite direction. That's what the last 6,000 years has done. That cycle has rotated our plane so that, in actual fact, the Earth is rotating the Sun in a different direction. It is still rotating anti-clockwise. The way it is now, it was still doing that 6,000 years ago. It was just going around the Sun in the opposite direction. The sequence we have just completed is what has done that. The start point, thus, is not silly. So therefore, when I go out and say, okay, well, I go from there, my end point was not a silly assumption either. And I'll explain to you why I moved from that point. I've drawn one line. And it's this red line that you see going across Australia. And I thought, well, I know that the other line in London that's already been marked is a timeline, as in a time meridian. And I thought, I'll go directly to the meridian. That's what I'll do. But I will go, and I thought, well, no, I know also that the warning, because it's on the other meridian, is already at London, is already at the Commonwealth, is already at what has transpired, that it's not acceptable behaviour. So I then think, well, maybe I should go down here and see the measurement and see what it is, what measurement do I get when I go down here. So that's exactly what I did. That's how I came to the conclusion that it was more the warning that I was seeing, knowing once again that the inserted image here is a queen. It's a Queen of Egypt in this one. But like I said, you can move it and it turns into the Queen of England. And ma'am, this is a threat to the Commonwealth in that it's going directly in the path. If I go to that point exactly, it is exactly 15,887 kilometres, that one. And the heading from where it was 11606 again. So it is not a silly thing to assess. Now, having said that, there are other things we need to know about this line. The line, if I draw a horizontal line down this way, directly from the tropics that are created from the last event, to the line that we've just drawn, that has given me those headings, and 15,887 kilometres, which is 887, the very number of Maui on Easter Island. And it's the line or the plane of the sun that we're just about to go into, we've already calculated, is roughly 16,000 years, and that's just a little under 16,000. 16,887 is exactly what it is. It goes over Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand. I know, I've lived there, I've walked past the beehive. It goes directly over Canberra, and that's what's going to happen. And it's going to come over here, and it's going to land in the same place. So actually this one here is going to go past here, it's going to divert there and come over and land in London as well. I've just zoomed out just a bit so we can have a look at the lower east coast of New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania in Australia. And I'll zoom in. I've drawn and added another line here between Canberra, which is the capital city, and an island off the coast of New South Wales here. Okay, it's a little south of Ulladulla and near Bateman's Bay in here. Okay, I've drawn that line. As you can see, it's actually pretty much in a trajectory the same as the other one was over here towards Wellington, and I have seen images where this is predicted as bouncing across, and it's going to bounce there and then there and so on. And I said to you that I showed you the inserted images of those rocks because we are told it's natural. I wanted to show you what we're also told is natural here. But what I believe we're seeing here is something telling us exactly what we're seeing. We are seeing this warning shot come in, and we're getting a count of the warnings here. There's like pyramids, almost natural type of pyramids. They look like pyramids. And I will show you a short video where there's one here, and it looks like it's, if you look from visually here, it looks like it's come in and crashed right through here and bounced off and bounced there again. The other thing I thought that was very, very amazing is what the water does in this hole here. If I'm not mistaken, there's a natural shaft through there. I don't know whether this is made or not. It is an amazing thing. I'm not kidding you. I looked at this and thought, wow, what a thing to see, you know. It's really quite an amazing thing to see that. If the swell's coming in this way, it comes in this way and funnels around and spins around in there that way. And if the swell's coming in this way, it comes in and it spins around that way and goes out this way. It's an amazing thing, and it's actually on the same island, and it's really quite amazing because what we're talking about is the rotation of the planet around the sun in different directions, and that is a natural thing. If you want to believe that it's built or is a natural, this is what I'm saying to you. There are messages everywhere to tell us we can do a lot of things. That would be another one in my respect, and that's another thing that makes me think that this is not a natural thing. Now I will insert a couple of quick videos or a couple of quick stills here of still images of this island off this video that this guy had uploaded. I won't go into showing that because it's getting a long video anyway, but that was very important because I believe that we are seeing exactly here what we are told what's going to happen. There's 3 points of contact of the warning shot, and the warning shot, I'm afraid, is going to go across those 3 spots. it will take out Wellington, Canberra, and then bounce onwards. And you may say it may not have the velocity. Trust me, it'll obtain the velocity again. The lesson in the pyramid is that it can get withheld and held for as long as it need be, and very, very accurately delivered. So it was only this morning I decided I'd get the rock that we see the image of here of the Queen in the two comets coming at her, that I thought I'm going to go back to where it all began, because it was in actual fact this rock that made me realise there had been microscopic imagery put on the rock. You know, it was logical. This was part of the rock here where I wanted to try and get rid of that mark. As silly as it sounds, I'll show you now a Google view of this same rock in a minute. But this is the Great Australian Bight here, and over to Port Augusta and Port Pirie and whatnot. And then I thought, well, maybe what we're actually looking at here is the creation of Tasmania. The Tasmania itself is, and I know as a landmass, I've watched geological shows about its creation, saying that it was, they believe it's not part of the original landmass of Australia. That would be why it's been put there in an event that is, the rubbish chucked up off it is carved. What was the carved up here through, you know, the Adelaide Hills. That's why the Adelaide Hills are there. They've been carved like that, and I would expect repaired. I wanted to show you that. I'll do an insert now of Google Earth, and you can see where this comet that you can see going in here has in actual fact done exactly that. You can see it's bounced across Australia and landed at the top, which has created the Gulf of Carpentaria. That's what that rock tells you. It also tells you that as well. And I would expect it's telling us here that the Gulf of Carpentaria, not the Gulf of Carpentaria, but the, you know, the Gulf, Port Augusta and whatnot, all Port Pirie and all that was all carved out by that event when that was used to tilt the globe over at one point. And I would expect the events like that are the ones they used, always seem to be using, and telling me that that is when they lay the planet flat on its axis. Note, if you would, there are no marks here beyond these two white marks, and I'll show you what happened this morning when I put this under, and I'll show you what I noticed first of all. Now if we notice now, this is the photo I took this morning. What you notice is you've got the inclusion yet again of another line here. See the white line here? I'm not using the side light here, that's just the microscope light, so there's no fancy trickery of light angle here. So it does look quite different. And that did encourage me to get my light when I see that sort of thing happen. And I sort of shine it from this side and from this side here, which is a lot of time you'll see a curved line like that, and I saw some really marvellous things. I won't go into them, but there is something on this rock that I thought very pertinent to do with Australia and to do with the trajectory, because yet again the one thing here is we're seeing a line above Australia here. This is Ayers Rock here. So we're seeing a line, you know, almost exactly in line with what we've said. The trajectory of this comet is going to hit over here on the east coast, because if this is Tassie, this is where it's going to hit. It's Canberra here. If this is Tasmania, then this is the coast. Well, that's where it's going to land. It's going to bounce off again. It's going to do what it says in the rock there. It's going to do the same thing as it did there, and go in that direction. I wanted to show you that because I'll show you the next bit. I know this is a little bit pixelated, this image, but I'll zoom it in a little bit. This is the same rock that I showed you at the start that had the white line come up on it, and it showed me what I thought was an appearance of South America, and it was the bigger comet and the smaller one hitting Central America, which is right where we are here, and the bigger one here being pointing down here to South America. Already knew it was there that the big one hit, or suspected it would be the case because it was lower down on the planet. But then I saw 4 here. I'll do an inserted image here of where those 4 comets landed, as shown on the very same rock on the top. That it separated the Australian landmass from the Asian landmass 6,000 years ago, and that's when it says on this rock it did it. But what I wanted to show you about that was this event has said the event that took place 6,000 years ago is in Roman numerals for a start, which is rather an unusual thing, because in actual fact the Romans aren't supposed to have been around 6,000 years ago. If this rock found by the river, actually this rock was found by the ocean side. This rock here was found at Seal Rocks. That's what happened here. There is another connection there to the Prime Minister, but I won't put it in this video. But that's actually what happened. It was 4 or 5, I should say. Even though it's got 4 here, that actually made 5 comets. It wasn't 4, there was 5 made from this event. It was 5. There was 1 used of the 5 somewhere else. And it was actually one of the 5 from here that was put with the comet that landed and created the Mediterranean. That's exactly what they say happened on the rocks. That there was one of these was used there. So in other words, this was not 4 that come off here, it was 5. So I suspect that that's what they're telling us there, but what I wanted you to be aware that if I added that to that, instead of taking it away and making 4 or 1 to make the 5, and added it to it, it would be 6, would it not? It would be, wouldn't it? That's the only other number I can come back with here is 6. I can add the 1 to the 5, put the 1 this side, and it's a 6 in Roman numerals. 6 for a 6,000 year cycle, 6 for the 6th of November, which is what the other end of the wall says. What other figure, when this then turned around and changed the number, what number did it change to? It changed to this number, which was 17. So now I've got another number now that instead of putting 1 there, I take 1 away and I get 6 again. It's on the same rock and on the very same part of the rock, even though this part, I will once again insert a clearer picture for you so that you can see it more clearly. You can zoom in and do a freeze frame yourself. I've just zoomed these in so I can show them to you a little bit more clearly with the camera going. But you can see 17 there. So once again we've got, if we take the 1 away instead of adding it, we've got 6 again. And if I said in between my son's and my birthday is the 6th. You take 10 days away, it's the 6th. You add 10 to his 27th, and it's the 6th. It will be the 6th of November that event will take place. That's what will happen. It's just the way it is. And he is the one that found the rock here, this one I insert now. Well, he found that twice in this river. Look how big the river is. There are rocks everywhere. So that's what's happened. For some reason we have been given the task of not just finding the rocks in the river. It would appear that we've been given the task of understanding why they've got the marks on them as well. So it's been a pretty daunting thing to come to the realisation of what a whole lot of it is all about, but because that is what we're seeing now with these images that I insert before you. These are all off the rocks. And these rocks have told us what's going to happen to the big rock we stand on, and we've had a lot held back from us. As we look at the images that we've got on the screen now, when I first slid this rock under a microscope and saw this for the first time, it was something I didn't doubt for a second. It was not something I had to sit there and think about, albeit this image, strangely enough, says it was taken on the 19th of November. I remember when I took that, without doubt I can tell you, it was the 16th of November, which was 3 days earlier. And that was without doubt, I know when that actually happened. And, which is odd, but that, I just thought, you know, that's not the first time that that sort of thing has happened. But I was without doubt, it was not something that I had to think about for very long. It was instantaneously, that is not something that's naturally made, like this inserted image of a flower. Yeah, that's a different thing. That's nature and the mathematics and growth of, you know, nature itself. Whether they have anything to do with that is another thing altogether. I wanted to bring us back here because I wanted to say to you that we're going to cross into different realms of nature here to a degree, things that we think are natural that are not. They've been put there to serve a message to us. Sometimes the messages are huge in respect to pyramids. In this respect, we have these Saxahuman walls again. I wanted to come back here and confirm this date before I go on with the next part as well. So the date is from this point here. This is the centre comet, which is the one that we've already spoken of, that landed in the centre of Western Australia. It landed in the centre. It is in the centre here. There is always a favoured ratio here, if you note, between these walls, and that's actually mirrored in many, many other megaliths. If I span out, not on this image, this is one I've freeze framed because this PC does not play this Google Earth with anywhere near this clarity, I can assure you. And yet they're both Google Earth Pro. We've got the 6th of November. Now if I go from this wall here, which is still joined on here, still along full flat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is our pointer. Pointer here is our arrow, so this is our end point. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's where the break in the wall is again. So that's between the 10th and the 11th month, which is what I said. It would be between the 10th and the 11th month. I'm trying to point out other things that are outside of my son's and my birthday that are obviously there anyway. And I know that sounds silly, but that's what's going down here. If I then go the other way and say, okay, well that's then said the 6th of the 11th, or between the 10th and the 11th, and between the 10th and the 11th is the 6th. So that's when what's going to happen is going to happen, and this is what's going to be happening. This warning that was the first thing last time is a warning for this time. It's for the now. That we need to know it now. They didn't need to know it then. They'd had Atlantis installed for 16,000 years. The sun rises from the east, does it not? Which wall gets the morning sun? This one here. This is above the equator. What wall is it? What light does this wall get? It doesn't get any, does it? During the normal day, it gets none. So therefore it is reflecting the night time. So if we're coming up here and it's a night time past this point here, right where we start, this is our start point, this hallway and little ball mark there, which is marking the little ball, which is the little comet that I install now, or insert now. That is the comet I talk of here. This is the one that's saying I'm already on the ground, and this is the arrow pointing to this wall. So I'm already on the ground here when these two, the two big ones, are still in the air. This is why I was saying I could never work out how many months this was. But it's not actually telling us of that event. It's actually, well, it may very well be, but it's also telling us of our event. This is the one that created the Mediterranean. This very comet here. The wall there that it represents is the one that creates the Mediterranean and drives our planet downwards. So then even on this wall then, if we're looking at that being representative of the night time on that wall, so the night time then is on the 1st, the night time on the 2nd, the night time on the 3rd, the night time on the 4th, the night time on the 5th, and you do not get a night time on the 6th, which means the 6th. And remember that the trajectory that we've drawn the line from on Google Earth is from a place that looks to say 11 AM if it is in Arabic and converted to English, that it says 11 AM on the 6th of November. When we look at the Egyptian bee that is scattered through Egyptian mythology or Egyptian glyphs in many places, and yet if it is a bee as they portray it to be, it is not. It hasn't got the right amount of legs for starters. Never seen a bee with 4 legs ever. We are saying something that's like a bee but not quite. Once again I see that we are seeing where I went in my life as being relevant, because I lived in New Zealand. And I'm not saying there isn't relevancy here. I've gone through some of these, are very, very particularly interesting. This one here is a very good one because once again, like I said, you'll see the wings. This isn't the wings of a bee, they're the wings of a moth. Some of these are very important, that one there especially. They're telling us of a coming event and where it's going to hit. And I will show you an inserted image now, which is a building called a beehive. The beehive is in central New Zealand. It is on the south. It's the southern end of the North Island. It is the capital. It is the Queen's representative down here that lives there. She's responsible for the governing of New Zealand. That is where and why we see a bee in the Egyptian mythology is because where it's first, or the bee sting, as they say, to stop a bee from stinging, you take off the back of the bee. You start not at the head, you start at the other end. The reason I have this imagery on the screen at the moment, it's actually the Prime Minister of Australia addressing the Australian Parliament in respect to child, or I should say institutional child abuse. And his apology, I would like you just to watch his body language, how long he looks up for, how long he reads for, and just watch how many words he has to actually look down for. I'm not a person that's sought to ever stand in a position like his. I'm absolutely certain if I actually had the task of doing such a thing, communicating on such a sensitive manner, I would not need to read a word. I would not need to have somebody prepare the words for me either, which I would expect here is exactly the situation. This is the man who's got to make a decision now based on a comment that he's going to hit Wellington at the beehive and land where he's talking. That is going to happen on the 6th of November. It is without doubt, it is the warning that we were going to get. That's what it is. And make no mistake, I will not be wrong about that. That is going to happen on the 6th of November. And it's going to be 11 AM in 11 AM Elam, 11 AM in New Zealand, beehive, 9 o'clock start time, 9:15 or thereabouts, 2 hours. Once again, another place I lived, so I know how far away it was. It's 2 hours in time. It'll be a 9 o'clock start. They'll all be in there and that'll be the last day of the Australian Parliament. I wanted to set us up like this. We haven't done this for a bit. Where I get the rock, the tin tan rock, I'll show you a picture of it, where I put this under the microscope and we do things together. And albeit it's not live, it's still pretty impressive. I wanted to do this because I believed in this rock, which is now just under microscope light. When I start moving the light around externally, would we see the trajectory of the comet that I just told you about, that it goes across the sky behind Uluru in Central Australia, which is what is depicted in the calculations that we've just shown you. You can see that is the rock I'm moving there. As you can see, it's the rock in question, so I'll put it back where I wanted to have it. We'll just put it there for the time being. Okay, and then I'll turn the light down on the microscope and use the external light and show you how that's done. And I do that sometimes very slowly because you can actually get a very good image when you're very, very slow like that. I have waited some time to make this video. I know it was very important, but it was also very important to get it correct. What I was saying needed to be correct. Now, what I believe we are seeing here is a depiction of Uluru on this rock, and that is proven by one of the figures or marks that comes out in the rock down here. And you who are Aboriginal in our country will know this mark because your elders wear it on their chests. So I just wanted to show you that what you're seeing here, in my opinion, is when I get that in the right spot, you can see now across behind Uluru now is it shining or going across the top of it, alright? About there, you get to see it going across the top of, and you know it's there, you're north of Uluru, and you're looking down south and looking at it going across the top of Uluru. And the marks that I was just talking about, I'll just lift this up higher, the marks that I was talking about that come out, that you see on the chest of an Aboriginal elder, is right in here. It's just in this area here. And like I said, it is difficult at times to hold the light really, really steady so you can get the mark correct for what it is they're trying to show you. But I thought those of you who are Aboriginal in our community might really like that, because I love that when I saw that. And there may be some amongst you who wonder, why did Brian Whitten get the privilege? Listen, I watched an SBS documentary, and strangely enough it was about Maralinga and that little mark there and that rock I just showed you in South Australia, boys and girls of the Aboriginal culture, is where the British come and let off the bombs to try and tilt the globe. And I was watching a documentary about the tests, and I watched an Aboriginal lady walk out. She was only 18 years old, walked out across the sandhills, tall and proud, and I had tears in my eyes, boys, because I realised what I was seeing was the last of her culture. This may be why I got this job, you know, so I didn't mean to have a go at Mr. Dobson in my last video because of colour or anything. I just, I had tears in my eyes, and that's, and I have no joke, that's a situation. And had the same thing happen when I watched a show about some Indian boys that dig in the sewer for mud to get gold to make a living, and they came into a room half the size of my lounge room here, and he was full of glee and so happy. It was amazing. And as the sun sets over the Australian mainland, we have a lesson in history left us on the rocks. It really has been quite a profound thing to have found this. I hope you appreciate what's been left here for us, because we have the ability to keep it here. let's try and keep it here. Let's make some sensible decisions here. And let's make the sunset turn into a sunrise again, okay? Because that's what we need to do here. We need to make the sun rise like this. And we need to make sure it keeps rising and setting. I thought that was a very, very lovely thing to have come across today on that rock and understand why it was there. Was even, it was amazing. I was absolutely amazed when I saw this, and I hope you appreciate why it was left here for us. Anyway, that's all from Brian Whitten and ETR. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.